Before you is not a heroic saga or a tale of honor and glory, but a grim and ironic excursion into the everyday life of a keykeeper in a medieval castle. You will find yourself inside the story, feeling for yourself the exhaustion, fear, and routine that fill every day of a simple servant of other people's secrets. You will live through 20 days and nights steeped in filth, cold, suspicion, and a constant sense of danger, because every lock here holds someone's fate, and every key pulls you down like a stone around your neck. But before you get comfortable, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments which city you are watching from and what time it is there. I am very interested to see who has joined us. Now, make yourself comfortable. We are beginning. You awaken before the cock crows. Darkness wraps around you like a second skin, thick and almost tangible, in the cramped stone cell that you now call home. There is no sunrise here, not in these suffocating walls. Instead, your day begins with the familiar, sour smell of mold and urine, and a thin, sullen light squeezing through the cracks above your head. Sleep, as always, has not brought you rest, but only the temporary oblivion of exhaustion. Your back aches from the unyielding straw pallet beneath you, the roughness of it biting into your skin, straw mixed with lice and the occasional rat droppings. You run a hand through your tangled hair and feel the dampness of the night still clinging to your scalp. No amount of shifting or sighing can drive away the cold. Not here. The only certainty you possess is that another day of your duties awaits, heavy and inevitable. Your small chamber is attached to the northern wall of the keep, wedged between storerooms and the grimy privies. When you first took the post of keykeeper, you had thought it an honor, a sign of trust from the lord of the castle, a position of responsibility. The reality, as with so many things, is different. You are a custodian of secrets, a warden of misery, and your own jailer. Each morning, you lie there for a few moments, staring at the ceiling where the lime plaster is peeling away. Mottled green and gray fungus blooms in the corners, thriving in the constant wet. It is impossible to escape the damp here. It has found its way into your bones, into your dreams, and now even your heart feels soft and swollen with rot. Somewhere above, water drips with maddening patience. You wonder what it was like to wake up in a clean, warm bed, but you have stopped trying to remember the last time. As you sit up, the joints in your knees protest, creaking like the hinges you tend every day. The chill makes your hands shake as you pull on your coarse tunic and the patched hose. Your boots are never truly dry. You catch a whiff of your own sweat, the smell of someone who works with keys, doors, and sorrow. There is no one to greet you, no gentle word to start your day, only the echo of your own breathing and the promise of another endless routine. In the corner, your most valuable possession hangs from a thick iron nail, a heavy ring of keys, each one unique, each one forged for a specific purpose. Some are large enough to double as cudgels, Others are so small you could lose them in your fist. You have memorized their shapes in the dark, traced their lines in your sleep. Every door, every lock in this castle relies on your careful stewardship. To lose a key is not merely a mistake, but a crime. You tie the key ring to your belt, feeling the familiar, bruising weight pull at your hip. Already the dull ache in your lower back tells you what the day will be like. You adjust the keys so they do not jangle too loudly. Noise is dangerous here, a signal to those who should never know you are coming. Before you can leave your chamber, you must check the ledger. The book is kept on a rickety wooden shelf, its pages stained with water and old grease. You run a finger down the list of locks, doors, gates, and trapdoors, each with a mark, a date, an incident. You must be able to recall, at any moment, who is supposed to be locked away, which storerooms are forbidden, which doors should never be opened without the Lord's express permission. As you flip the page, a long dead spider tumbles out and lands in your lap. You do not flinch. After all these years, you fear living men more than you fear what crawls in the shadows. There is no time for breakfast. Food is a luxury that comes later, if at all. Instead, you rinse your face with a splash of cold water from a cracked pitcher, wincing as the chill bites your skin. Your reflection in the rippling water is a stranger's face, sallow, drawn, and much older than you remember. You force yourself to stand, knees popping, and stretch your back until it hurts less. The day about to begin. Out in the corridor, you can already hear movement, guards changing shifts, servants hurrying past, the distant clang of a bell summoning people you will never see. The castle is never truly quiet, but your section is the quietest of all, except for the muffled cries that sometimes escape the cells and the ominous scrape of rats' claws behind the walls. You take a last look at your miserable chamber. No one else enters here except for you, and even you would rather not. But you have a job, and in this world, a job is survival. You gather your courage, grasp the key ring so hard your knuckles whiten, and step into the darkness, ready to begin another day as the keykeeper, a man trusted with every lock, but free from none. The ring of keys hangs at your side, an iron promise and a threat. They chime against your thigh with every uneven step you take, and it is a music that no one in the castle wants to hear. The sound of the keykeeper means the doors will open, sometimes to let someone out, more often to shut them in. It means questions, inspections, change, or worse. Even the guards eye you warily as you pass, half respectful and half fearful, as if the mere possession of so many keys might grant you some dark authority. Your body leans slightly to the right now. The weight of the key ring is not so much a burden as it is a slow, deliberate deformity, your gait forever altered by years of carrying metal. When you remove the keys at night, you feel as if something vital is missing. You have grown into their presence, their heaviness a constant reminder of your role. Sometimes you imagine they are not keys at all, but shackles, each one tying you a little tighter to the dank stones of the keep. It is still early, but your day has already been decided for you. There are rounds to make and locks to check. Doors must be opened, closed, and opened again. Each key has its place in the sequence, a ritual you have long since memorized. To fumble or pause is to invite suspicion. Your hands know every notch and groove, every stubborn lock and secret mechanism. Yet each morning you wonder if today will be the day one key breaks, or a lock refuses to turn, or something is simply not as it should be. The first task is always the storerooms. Here is where the Lord keeps supplies, valuables, and sometimes things best left unmentioned. As you approach the thick oak doors, the musty scent of dried grain and sour cheese seeps from the cracks. You select the broad, square toothed key and fit it into the lock. The mechanism grinds reluctantly, sticky with years of neglect and the grease you scrape from animal fat. You make a mental note to ask for more oil, knowing the request will be ignored. Maintenance is for those with time, and time is a currency no one here possesses. Behind you, a servant waits, her eyes averted, clutching a stained sack. She is younger than you, but her face already carries the hard lines of the household. She cannot look at you directly. To do so would be to risk being seen as trouble, and in this place, trouble is an infection. You open the door and step aside, letting her scurry in and out with supplies, never once speaking. As you move on, the keys grow heavier, not in any physical sense. They are as they have always been, but each lock is another burden. Some doors open to storerooms, others to misery. Your next stop is the corridor of the cells. The air changes here, thickening with the stench of bodies and despair. The torchlight dances along damp stone, making shadows twist and shiver like condemned men. The prisoners know the sound of your approach. Some shuffle forward, eager for a chance to beg, threaten, or cajole. Others retreat into the gloom, hiding their faces from the man with the keys. You do not meet their eyes. To acknowledge them is to become involved, and involvement leads to weakness. Weakness, in the keykeeper's profession, is a death sentence. Instead, you methodically check each lock, tugging at the doors, listening for that familiar click as the tumblers fall into place. One cell, as always, is silent. The occupant inside is either dead or too stubborn to let you see fear. You do not open the door. That key is for the Lord alone, and you have been warned what happens to those who trespass. The lock on this cell is newer than the rest, the metal white and sharp-edged. You trace your fingers over it for a moment, imagining what secrets lie behind it, and then move on. There is a certain hierarchy to the keys on your ring. The largest is for the gate, used only in times of alarm or during the rare delivery. The smallest unlocks the chest where the records are kept, a box almost as battered as yourself. The most dangerous key is thin and plain, with no markings. It opens the oubliette, the pit reserved for the truly damned. You have only used it 3 times in all your years, but you check it daily out of habit and dread. As you pass through the corridors, the castle begins to stir. You see the blacksmith at his forge, shaping nails and horseshoes. The scullery maids drag heavy buckets, leaving wet trails behind them. No one speaks to you unless they must, and even then, their voices are hushed, as if afraid you might unlock something inside them by accident. You are not hated, exactly. You are something worse, necessary. People need doors to open and close, but they do not want to think about who holds the keys. You walk among them, always separate, burdened by the knowledge that any slip, a lost key, a broken lock, will be laid at your feet. There are no second chances for the keykeeper. By midday, your shoulders ache, your fingers are slick with sweat and grime, and the keys feel as though they have doubled in weight. You pause by a narrow window, looking out at the muddy courtyard. Rain threatens on the horizon, a wall of gray that will soon sweep over the castle. You envy the birds you see, fluttering between the ramparts. They need no keys to go where they please, but envy is a luxury you cannot afford. You adjust the heavy ring at your waist and continue your rounds, each step echoing through the stone halls. The day is just beginning, and the doors, as always, are waiting. Your rounds completed for now, you know the morning cannot truly begin until you endure the audience with your superior. In the hierarchy of the keep, you are neither a true servant nor a true officer, but you are accountable to both. And the man who holds your leash is the steward, a creature who manages to be both petty and powerful, his authority as damp and omnipresent as the castle's stone. The hall where you must report is colder than your cell, if such a thing is possible. Its high, narrow windows let in only reluctant slivers of light, illuminating the long, scarred table where the steward presides over his petty kingdom. He waits for you each dawn, a smirk already ready on his lips, as if he has been planning new indignities during the night. You enter, the sound of your keys louder in this silence than anywhere else in the world. The steward's gaze falls to your waist immediately. He has never touched a key in his life, but he is obsessed with their number, their shape, their supposed magic. To him, you are not a man at all, but a liability waiting to happen. A single error, a missing key, an unexplained sound in the night. These are your imagined crimes, and he is always ready to judge you guilty. Well, he begins, dragging out the syllable as if savoring it. Let us have it then. The inventory. Each one, please. His fingers drum on the table. You know the drill. You must remove the iron ring from your belt. Its loss of weight is almost alarming. Your hand feels naked. You lay the keys out on the battered table in front of him. The sound as they strike the wood is like a funeral bell, each one an accusation. You begin the ritual, the main gate key, the key to the north tower, the lower storehouse key, the chest key, the cells, first, second, third, fourth, the pit, the crypt, the armory, the grain stores, the blacksmiths, the well house, The Lord's chamber under seal and not to be used, the south stairs, the stables, the list goes on and on, a litany of iron burdens, until the ring is empty and the table is crowded with metal teeth, each one glinting in the thin light. The steward does not listen. He ticks off the names with the blunt end of a quill, watching you the whole time for a flicker of uncertainty. Sometimes, just to amuse himself, he asks you about keys that do not exist. And the key to the east gate, he inquires, knowing full well there is no east gate. You have learned never to flinch, never to question. Destroyed when the old wall fell, you answer, as you always do. It is a game, and he is always looking for an excuse to end it with your dismissal. When he finishes, he slides the keys back to you with exaggerated slowness. All accounted for now, he says. There is a threat in every word. Lose a single one, and you know the consequences. We have no place for carelessness here. As you fumble the ring back onto your belt, you feel his eyes on you, cold and bright as a lantern in a storm. He dismisses you with a flick of his hand. You are not permitted to leave until he is certain you will do so silently. Leaving the hall, your heart pounds, not with fear, but with the sickly pulse of resentment. In the pecking order of the castle, you are a scavenger bird, useful for what you consume, despised for your presence. The steward is not the lord, nor even a knight, but his power over you is absolute. You can sense that he enjoys this power. Sometimes you wonder if he would be so bold if he ever had to carry a key himself, or if the weight would bow his back the way it has bowed yours. As you step into the passage, your mind replays the inventory. You cannot help it. The sequence of keys, the doors they open, the secrets they keep, these are the true bones of the castle, and you are their unwilling marrow. If a single key is out of order, you will suffer. If you hesitate, you will be suspected. If you do not remember each lock's quirks and moods, someone will surely make you regret it. It is a strange thing to be trusted with every entrance and exit, and yet never be trusted yourself. The steward's words follow you down the corridor, echoing with each hollow footfall. Lose a single one, as if you needed reminding. You know all too well what happened to your predecessor, and the memory is enough to make you grip your keys until your knuckles ache. The rest of the household is coming to life now. You pass a page boy with sleep still crusted in his eyes, carrying a chipped jug of water. He steps aside quickly, eyes down, as if your presence contaminates the air. To be the keykeeper is to live among others without ever truly being of them. Your knowledge of the keep is unmatched, but it earns you only suspicion and isolation. You continue your slow march through the maze of corridors, the familiar metallic rhythm of your keys keeping pace. Outside, the pale dawn is hardening into day. You think, not for the first time, that the sun itself seems reluctant to rise over this place. You have survived another audience. The day is yours for now, until another inventory, another suspicion, another reminder of how easily you could be replaced or locked away yourself. You resume your rounds, the weight of the keys once again an anchor and a weapon, and you steel yourself for whatever the next door will reveal. The day is still young, but already you feel the hours pressing in. Now comes the part of your morning routine that is least envied and most misunderstood by those who have never walked these corridors. The slow, methodical inspection of the prison cells and the undercroft. It is not just about counting bodies, though that is certainly part of it. It is about maintaining the illusion of order, one that can collapse at any moment, like rotten beams under a heavy roof. You step into the corridor that leads to the cells, the keys at your side jangling an uneasy rhythm. The air is thick here, as if it too is imprisoned, never quite fresh, no matter how many times the torches are replaced or the flagstones are scrubbed. You catch the familiar scents: sour sweat, stale piss, and something more elusive: fear, perhaps, or the absence of hope. This is your realm, though you would never choose it. Your breath puffs visibly in the chill gloom. The torches, sparse and sputtering, cast more shadow than light. You know every uneven stone, every dip and rise in the floor. You know where the water gathers in dark puddles, where the mortar crumbles, and where rats are most likely to scurry when disturbed. There are days when you envy the rats. They can always escape. The prisoners sense you before they see you. There is a change in the air, a tension that tightens as you approach. Some shuffle forward, clutching the bars as if hoping for a miracle. Others shrink back, blending into the shadows as best they can. Their faces are as familiar to you as your own, more familiar, perhaps, given how rarely you study your own reflection. You start with the first cell. The man inside is called Father Ewan, though you doubt anyone would let him near an altar now. He gives you the same look he does every morning, eyes full of contempt and secret pride, as if enduring this squalor is a badge of honor. You do not engage with him. You rattle the door, test the lock, and move on. Your job is not to judge. Each cell has its own personality. Some prisoners beg, offering promises of gold, land, or secrets, anything if you will just look away for a moment. Some threaten, promising death or worse should they ever get free. Most, though, are simply broken, their minds as worn and useless as the rags that cover them. You learn not to linger. Mercy, here, is a kind of cruelty. You come to the fourth cell. This one is silent, its occupant unseen. You know she is there. Her breathing gives her away, slow and even, as if she is somewhere else entirely. You have never seen her face. The steward insists this door never be opened except on his order. The lock is new, shiny, its key kept separate from the rest. You pause, listening to the silence, then move on. The less you know, the safer you are. Now comes the part that chills you even after all these years: the lower cells, the true dungeons beneath the keep. The stairs descend steeply, each step slick with slime and the memory of ancient suffering. You carry a lantern here. The torches do not last, and neither, it seems, does hope. The air grows colder, the walls closer, and you feel as if you are sinking into the earth itself. Down here, the cells are reserved for the worst cases, traitors, heretics, and those whom the Lord wishes to forget. You do not know all their stories, nor do you care to. You make your way from door to door, testing each lock, listening for any sign of life. Sometimes there is a whisper, sometimes a curse. Occasionally there is only silence, and you wonder if you are locking away the dead alongside the living. You check the oubliette last. The key for this door is different, long, thin, and as cold as the grave. You do not like using it. The pit beyond is not really a cell, but a hole in the floor, deep enough that a fall means broken bones, certain death if the prisoners are left too long. You force yourself to look inside. Today, it is empty, but you know that can change in an instant. As you make your way back up the stairs, the weight of the keys feels heavier. You know that each door you pass hides a story of pain, betrayal, or madness, but it is not your place to care. You are the keeper, not the confessor. Your job is to ensure that what is locked stays locked and that the secrets of the keep remain buried. The upper cellars are next. Here, the darkness is less absolute, but the atmosphere no less oppressive. The stores are checked, barrels of spoiled ale, sacks of moldy grain, crates of onions and turnips that will never see the Lord's table. You note everything in the ledger. Sometimes you find things you wish you had not: a rat gnawed finger, a blood stain too recent to be explained away, the remnants of a failed escape. You record these too. No detail is too small, no misery unworthy of documentation. By the time you finish, the sun is up, but it does not reach down here. You are reminded, not for the first time, that there are more people below the castle than above it, and none of them are free. You return to the corridor, blinking against the light. Your hands are numb, your legs stiff, your mind weary. The world above ground seems impossibly bright, impossibly clean, and impossibly out of reach. You realize, with a sinking certainty, that the cells are not the only prisons here. The castle itself is a cage, and you, with all your keys, are perhaps its most loyal captive. You move on to your next task, the rhythm of your steps matched only by the clatter of keys at your side, a constant reminder that in a world built of stone and secrets, there is no such thing as freedom, only the illusion of safety and the certainty of more locks yet to check. It is never clear to you when a morning will become an ordeal. Sometimes, as you move through the castle's corridors, the guards will intercept you with their heavy boots and blunt commands. Today is one of those days. A pair of them appear at the end of the hallway, blocking the faint, watery light. Their faces are blank, but you see the impatience in the way they clench their fists. Keykeeper, one says, as if your title is a disease. You are wanted in the lower chamber. You know what this means. Interrogations. The word is never spoken aloud, but it hangs in the air like a damp cloak. The lower chamber, every brick in the castle, knows what happens there. Your stomach tightens, your mouth tastes of iron. You do not protest, you do not ask questions. You simply nod, feeling the keys at your waist as if they have grown even heavier. They march you down the winding stair. The air grows colder, the stones slicker. The torches here are old, their light a sickly yellow that seems to illuminate only the worst corners of the soul. You know these steps well, though you wish you did not. No one speaks on the descent. Even the guards prefer silence. At the base of the stair is a door you must open, a privilege, if one can call it that, reserved only for you and your keys. You select the correct one by touch, the metal cold and slick with something you do not want to identify. The lock resists, as if even the door would rather remain closed. You win, but barely. Inside, the chamber is colder still, the air thick with the scent of mildew and fear. The walls are stained, patched, and then stained again. In the middle stands a table with manacles, a bucket of cloudy water, and a few implements you prefer not to look at for long. A man sits slumped in the lone chair, his face swollen, his hands already bound. You keep your eyes low. Your job is not to ask questions, only to provide access. The steward is here, of course, his eyes bright and eager. The Lord himself rarely attends these sessions. He prefers the results, not the process. But the steward relishes every detail. Keykeeper, he says, gesturing, stay, we may require your services. There is no arguing. You stand at the edge of the shadows, blending in as best you can. The guards move forward, one taking a position by the door, the other ready at the man's side. The steward leans in close, his voice low and oily. Tell us, friend, what we need to know, he whispers, almost kindly. The prisoner does not reply. The silence stretches until it snaps. What happens next is both predictable and unbearable. The questions begin, always the same, always unanswered. Where is the coin? Who aided you? When did you last see her? The answers are less important than the ritual, the demonstration of power and pain. The prisoner's resolve falters quickly, his voice cracking, his pleas rising in volume until they echo off the stones. You are not allowed to leave. You are required, they say, to bear witness. The implication is clear. You are responsible for what is locked behind these doors, and for what is broken here as well. You must know who enters, who leaves, and in what state. It is your job, your burden, your curse. You stand perfectly still. You do not flinch at the screams, nor do you wince at the crack of flesh or bone. You have learned that pity is dangerous, that even the hint of compassion will be noticed and punished. You fix your eyes on a damp patch of wall, tracing the outline of a stain that could be blood or something worse. You try not to count the minutes. Time passes strangely in this place, stretching and contracting in rhythm with the prisoner's agony. Sometimes the steward glances at you, as if to make sure you are still there, as if he suspects you might vanish given the chance. You do not. You endure. When the session finally ends, the guards haul the broken man away. You are told to lock the door again to ensure nothing escapes. You do so mechanically, your hands steady even as your insides are a tangle of nerves. You feel the eyes of the steward on your back, his approval as cold as the flagstones beneath your boots. Back in the corridor, the air feels lighter, but only just. You try to shake the session from your mind, but the sounds linger, muffled by stone, yet sharp as knives. You wonder if the others hear them too, or if, like you, they have learned to bury these memories deep. You return to your rounds. The keys at your belt are silent now, each one a promise or a threat, depending on which side of the door you stand. You are reminded with each step that your duties go beyond locks and doors. You are a participant in the castle's rituals, a cog in the machinery of suffering. You wonder, not for the first time, if the walls remember every scream, every confession forced by pain. You wonder if, centuries from now, someone will find these stains and know the truth of what happened here, or if, like so much else in the castle, it will simply be covered up, patched over, forgotten until it happens again. You climb the stairs back to the upper corridors. The light is no kinder here, the silence no more peaceful. The castle remains unchanged, indifferent to the suffering within its walls. You are the keykeeper, after all. You open doors, you close them, and you carry their secrets, every one. The castle bell tolls, signaling the time for another routine you have come to despise, the feeding of the prisoners. If one wishes to understand misery, it is not enough to witness violence or hear confessions torn from throats. One must also observe the slow, daily grind of hunger, humiliation, and neglect, a suffering less dramatic perhaps, but far more persistent. You descend into the kitchens, where the warmth and chaos are a world away from the cold discipline of the dungeons. Here, the cook reigns, red faced and impatient, wielding her ladle like a scepter. She eyes you with practiced suspicion, making sure you do not steal so much as a crumb. You wait your turn, silent and ignored by the other servants. No one wants to stand too close to the keykeeper. Even the flies prefer the smell of meat and cabbage to the metallic scent of your keys. The meal itself is an insult. Thin gruel, bits of cabbage boiled into oblivion, and occasional shards of bone or gristle for those lucky enough to have teeth left. Bread is rare, and when it appears, it is black, hard, and covered in a fine white fuzz that no one bothers to scrape away. The water, when there is any, is cloudy with whatever floated through the cisterns that week. You load up the battered pails, careful not to spill. The cook smirks as she hands you a wedge of salt pork barely larger than your thumb, a luxury for the highborn, an afterthought for the condemned. You balance the buckets on your arms and return to the darkness below. The corridors are quieter now, as if the very walls hold their breath for this ritual. You approach the first cell and tap the door with your foot, a warning that food is coming, though calling it food is generous. A hand snakes through the bars, grasping for the bowl before you even set it down. The prisoner inside grunts a thankless thanks, his eyes feral. You do not make eye contact. It is safer that way. You slide the bowl and a crust of bread through the narrow slot at the base of the door. The hand withdraws, trembling with anticipation. This process repeats, cell by cell. The voices change, some pleading, some cursing, some eerily polite. All of them are desperate. You do not speak to them, not even to answer questions or insults. Words are for people with hope. Here, hope is a dangerous luxury. One woman, gaunt and missing half her teeth, tries to grasp your wrist as you pass her bowl. Please, just a little more, she whispers, her voice barely more than a breath. You jerk your hand away before the guards see, pretending not to hear. If you show mercy, even once, you will be watched for it forever. Kindness is as risky as escape. The worst, as always, are the children. There are only a few, too many, yet never enough to matter to those in charge. They reach for the bread, their eyes huge and hollow, their fingers already stained by the filth of their cell. You make your delivery as quickly as possible, not trusting yourself to linger. Every so often, a guard accompanies you, leering, making crude jokes at the expense of those inside. You have learned to keep your face blank, your thoughts silent. At the end of the corridor, you come to the silent cell, the one with the new lock, the special orders, the secret. You set the bowl and water beside the door. You are not allowed to open the slot, not allowed to look inside. You obey. The castle is full of rules that make no sense until you break them. Once the food is delivered, you must account for every bowl, every scrap of bread, every drop of water. The ledger must be updated, noting who ate, who refused, who was too ill to reach the door. You suspect no one reads these records. Perhaps they are meant for some future judge, or maybe they are only there to remind you that everything here is temporary, even hunger. You return the empty buckets to the kitchen. The cook grumbles about the smell and inspects the bowls for signs of theft. She finds nothing, as she always does, and you leave with your reputation intact. A man who steals nothing, gives nothing, and takes nothing from anyone but the Lord. As you climb the stairs back to the upper corridors, you catch a glimpse of yourself in a cracked bit of polished metal. Your face is gaunt, your eyes ringed with shadows, your lips pressed thin in a permanent frown. You remember for a moment that you once had a favorite meal, meat pie, thick and steaming, with a golden crust. The memory fades as quickly as it came, replaced by the stench of sour gruel and hopelessness. For the prisoners, hunger is an unending torment. For you, it is a background noise, always there but rarely acknowledged. You have not eaten yet, but you are not hungry. Your stomach is empty, but your mind is full, with memories, with guilt, with the knowledge that tomorrow you will repeat this ritual, and the day after that, and the day after that, until the castle falls or you do. You pass a rat on the way to your cell. It pauses, whiskers twitching, and you wonder if it eats better than some of the men and women you feed. You almost envy it. There is a brief window each day when the prisoners are herded from their cells into the inner yard. The reason for this ritual is practical, though no one in the keep is sentimental enough to admit it. Even misery needs sunlight, or what passes for it on most days. Air must circulate, filth must be swept, and the living must be seen to distinguish them from the dead. This morning, as you finish your ledger and replace the keys at your waist, you hear the summons. The bell clangs twice, sharp and humorless. It is time for the parade. You collect the special keys for the yard gates, a pair so rusted together they bite your hand, and trudge down to the main corridor where the guards are already waiting. Their faces are pink from the warmth of the barracks. Their voices are loud, almost cheerful, as they joke about the stench they will soon endure. None of them carry keys. Only you do, and everyone knows what that means. The prisoners are lined up, shuffling, eyes down, as the guards bark and threaten. Some limp from injuries old and new. Some keep their backs to the wall. Others stare at the floor as if hypnotized. A few have the defiant spark of the recently captured, but you know it never lasts. The cold, the hunger, and the cruelty grind everyone down eventually. You take a head count, reading names from a list, checking each face against the marks on your roster. Anyone missing will mean more trouble than you care to contemplate. The gate to the yard is ancient, studded with iron, and scarred by generations of neglect. You force the key into the lock, twisting it with both hands until it gives way with a noise like a dying animal. The hinges groan in protest as you drag the door open. Sunlight, or something like it, spills across the stones. The prisoners blink and flinch, unused to brightness. To most, the yard is not freedom, just another kind of cell, wider, windier, but still bordered by walls that reach the sky. The guards shove the prisoners forward. You stand by the open gate, ring of keys dangling at your side, watchful for anyone bold or desperate enough to make a dash for it. There have been attempts in the past. Some nearly succeeded. Most ended in blood and howling, and another hole dug behind the stables. Now you watch not just the prisoners, but the guards as well. Some of them are crueler than the Lord himself. You have seen them lose prisoners for sport, only to drag them back later, battered and barely breathing. It is your job to note the names, not the bruises. The yard itself is a rectangle of mud, bordered by high stone walls and two squat towers. A trough runs along one side, full of water so murky you would not trust it to wash a dog. The prisoners scatter along the edges, squatting or pacing. Some huddle together, whispering in dialects you cannot understand. Others sit alone, staring at nothing, their backs bent as if the sky itself is another ceiling. The guards circle, clubs in hand, watching for trouble. You see one of them, A thick-set man named Adric kick at a boy who moves too slowly. The boy falls, but makes no sound. You know he is new. By next week, he will have learned to fall more quickly or not at all. You keep a close eye on the gate. This is the moment of maximum risk. If anyone is desperate enough to try and escape, it will be now. You hold the yard keys tight in your hand, feeling the rust and old blood ground into the grooves. You have never lost a prisoner in the yard, and you do not intend to start today. A crow lands on the wall above, eyeing the scene with indifferent curiosity. You wonder, as you often do, what the birds make of this place. Do they see you as master or slave, jailer or captive? The distinction is blurrier than you would ever admit aloud. After half an hour, the guards begin herding the prisoners back toward the gate. The process is as grim as before, but now tempers are shorter. Someone mutters a curse, another spits at the ground. The guards jab with clubs, the prisoners shuffle forward. You count them again, always counting, always dreading the day when the numbers do not match. The missing are never missed for long. The Lord's punishment for an escaped prisoner is legendary, and you have no desire to find out if it is as severe as rumored. Once all are through the gate, you force it shut, the hinges shrieking their protest. The key bites your palm again as you twist it home. You do not breathe until the lock is secure and the guards disperse, dragging stragglers and wounded alike. The prisoners are returned to their cells, some with help, most without. The silence that follows is absolute. You pause in the yard, staring up at the narrow slice of sky between the battlements. For a moment, the sun glimmers on the stones, making them look almost beautiful. But beauty is for those with the luxury of forgetting. You know that behind each wall is another cell, another story, another lock. The prisoners return to their misery, the guards to their boredom, and you to your endless march between the two. Your job is not to provide hope, it is to provide routine, to enforce the rhythm of confinement, to remind everyone, yourself included, that even fresh air is a privilege doled out by the man with the keys. As you leave the yard, the echo of your steps is joined by the distant cawing of the crow, as if it is mocking the lot of you. You climb the stairs, your keys heavier than ever, the knowledge settling in your bones. In this castle, freedom is measured in steps, in breaths, in moments before the gates slam shut again. Routine is the armor of the keykeeper. It is what keeps you sane, or as close to sane as you are permitted in these halls. But the castle has a way of shattering routine, of testing your nerves and your loyalties with sudden violence. Today, the test comes in the form of an escape attempt, a fact you will not fully realize until your own heartbeat is racing ahead of the rest. The alarm begins as a commotion at the far end of the cell corridor. It starts with a bang, a clattering bowl against the bars, a shout, then the abrupt, wordless roar that only desperate men can summon. You are several halls away, inspecting the locks on the wine cellar when the noise reaches you. For a moment, you hope it is only a fight. Fights are common and usually handled by the guards without your involvement, but then you hear the pounding of feet, the unmistakable shouts, "Keys! The keys!" You drop the wine cellar key and run, the ring at your belt crashing against your hip like the bells of doom. The corridor feels longer than usual. Your breath clouds before your face as you round the last corner and see the chaos. Two prisoners, older men, have overpowered a guard, a skinny youth with too much courage and not enough sense. One has his club. The other is groping wildly at the guard's belt, searching for something, anything, that might open a door to freedom. The guards are shouting, but most of them are hesitating, unwilling to get too close to men with nothing left to lose. For a heartbeat, the only thing between these men and the yard is you. You know your role. You grip your keys and step forward, heart pounding, the whole weight of the castle's expectations pressing you onward. The prisoners see you, eyes wild with hope and terror. They know you, know what you carry. "Give us the keys," one shrieks, spit flying. "We are not animals." You do not speak. Your mind is racing, calculating the odds, the angles. You hold the ring out of reach, moving it behind your back. One lunges, club raised. You sidestep, feeling the air move as the club whistles past your shoulder. Your arm is already moving. You swing the heavy key ring with all your strength, connecting with his temple. He drops, groaning, stunned but alive. The other man falters, staring at you with hatred so bright it seems to burn. The guards surge forward now, emboldened by your action. They are not gentle. Clubs rise and fall. Boots crash down. The prisoners are dragged back, battered and howling, their short lived rebellion over. The young guard, shaking, white faced but alive, struggles to his feet. He avoids your gaze as if ashamed that you, not he, ended the standoff. Blood spatters the flagstones, mixing with the filth and straw. You check your keys, none missing, all accounted for. You check your hands. They shake, but you will it to stop. You have learned that trembling is a luxury you cannot afford. Not here, not ever. The aftermath is ugly. The prisoners are cuffed, beaten further, and dragged to the pit for their trouble. The guards are all noise now, their bravado returning with the safety of numbers. You are hailed as a hero by some, ignored by most. The steward arrives, red-faced and furious, demanding explanations, assurances, names for the ledger. You give your report in the flat, precise tones expected of you, already knowing what parts will be twisted against you should anything go wrong in the future. The Lord himself does not appear. He will hear of the attempt, of course. There will be punishments, but not for you. You were only doing your job. Only, always doing your job. After the chaos subsides, you are left with the mess to clean up. Blood must be scrubbed away. The club returned to the armory. The locks checked twice, then a third time for good measure. The young guard mutters thanks, eyes still downcast, but you say nothing in reply. Words are thin protection against what comes next. That night, you lie awake on your pallet, the echoes of the day pounding in your ears. You replay every movement, every mistake you might have made, every door you checked or did not check. The ring of keys seems even heavier now, a collar instead of a tool. You wonder in the dark if you would have done the same in their place, rushed the man with the keys, desperate for even a taste of freedom. You wonder if you would have been braver, or if you would have begged, as so many do, for mercy that never comes. You do not sleep well. The sounds of violence linger long after the bruises fade. The castle, for all its locks, cannot keep out the truth. Sometimes the only difference between keeper and kept is who holds the keys at the end of the day. You would like to believe that after quelling an escape, the castle might reward you with a measure of trust, or at least a grudging nod of respect. But that is not how things work here. In the aftermath, suspicion becomes your new shadow. The castle, for all its stone and iron, is held together by doubt. Everyone is watching, and everyone is certain you have something to hide. It begins quietly. The steward's eyes linger longer on you when you pass through the great hall. The guards, once content to ignore you, now hold their conversations a little lower, their voices dropping when you enter a room. The cook, who was never friendly, now watches you as if you might slip poison into her soup. Even the rats seem to keep a greater distance, as if sensing your newfound danger. You feel the change most acutely when you walk the corridors at night. There is always some pretext, a strange sound, a rumor of keys gone missing, a story of whispered voices behind the walls. The castle is a hothouse of paranoia, and you, with your ring of iron, are the natural suspect. You recall every story you have heard about what happens to keykeepers who fail: the pit, the stocks, the slow starvation. You remember your predecessor's final days, how his hands shook, how he whispered to himself in the darkness before vanishing altogether. His keys had to be pried from his cold, blue fingers. Now, every small mistake becomes potential evidence. A door left ajar? The keykeeper is careless, or worse, complicit. A prisoner found with a scrap of metal? The keykeeper has been bribed. A missing loaf of bread? Perhaps you are smuggling messages or food to the condemned. The fact that none of it is true only adds to your discomfort. Lies are easier to believe when everyone is hungry for someone else's downfall. You notice the change in the guards' routines, where before they let you pass with a nod or grunt, now they search your person when you leave the dungeons. They turn out your pockets, pat you down, sometimes even demand you open the ledger in front of them, as if you might be hiding a key between the pages. There is never any apology, only the cold, matter of fact suspicion that follows you like a foul odor. One evening, as you finish your rounds, you find the steward waiting for you at the bottom of the stairwell. His arms are folded, his mouth twisted in a parody of a smile. "A word, if you please," he says, his tone heavy with forced politeness. You follow him into a small, windowless room just off the main corridor. He closes the door behind you, and the air grows stale at once. On the table lies your ledger, open to a page you filled just hours ago. He sits across from you, fingers drumming on the wood. "There are concerns," he begins, "questions about the keys, about your routines, about your loyalties." He leans forward. "You understand, I am sure, that in times such as these, a single careless act can bring ruin on us all." You nod. There is no point in arguing. His mind is already made up. You are guilty, not of any crime, but of the misfortune of being indispensable and therefore dangerous. He quizzes you on the inventory, on the guards' names, on the schedule for feeding and cleaning. He wants you to slip, to contradict yourself. Each answer you give is met with a frown or a note jotted in his book. He asks about the escape, about the club, about how you could have arrived so quickly. You tell him the truth, knowing it does not matter. Truth is nothing here, only the illusion of control. Finally, he lets you go, but not before reminding you of the consequences of betrayal. "The castle is always watching," he says, and you can almost believe it. The way the shadows move, the way the stones seem to listen. You leave the room with your head bowed, the keys at your waist heavier than ever. From that night on, you check every door twice, then a third time for good measure. You sleep lightly, waking at every creak and groan of the old timbers. You have become a ghost, haunting the castle's corridors, unable to rest, unable to escape the suspicion that now dogs your every step. You dream of locked doors and endless passageways, of keys that do not fit and doors that will not open. In these dreams, you are always running, always pursued, but never caught, because no one wants to catch you. Not really. They want to watch you run, to see how long you can keep ahead of the accusations. Day by day, the suspicion wears you down, carving lines into your face, thinning your hair, sharpening your tongue. You trust no one, not even yourself. You start to doubt your own memory, your own senses. Did you lock the cell? Did you count the keys correctly? Is that a footprint near the secret door, or just a trick of the dust? You keep your silence, perform your duties, and watch the others watch you. You know now that there is only one thing worse than being feared and hated in this place: being forgotten. Still, you carry the keys, each one a link in a chain that will never quite let you go. Night falls in the castle not with quiet, but with a growing unease. The daylight, as gray and grudging as it is, at least allows for some illusion of safety. The darkness, however, is honest. It reveals every shadow, every chill, every sound that might have gone unnoticed beneath the noise of the day. For the prisoners, for the guards, and most of all for you, the keykeeper, night is the hour of reckoning. Evening roll call is your last, most vital task before the world succumbs to true blackness. It begins, as always, with a bell, not the cheerful chime of morning, but a deep, hollow peal that seems to shudder through the very stones. The guards gather in the corridor, clubs and torches in hand, eyes red rimmed with fatigue and boredom. Some are eager for the duty, relishing the chance to exercise their authority one last time before drinking themselves numb. Others drag their feet, dreaming of beds they will never quite make warm. All of them look to you, the man with the keys, to begin the ritual. You start at the far end of the corridor. The iron ring hangs heavy, each key already slick with the sweat of your palm. The first lock turns reluctantly. Inside, the prisoner stares back, silent or sullen, resigned to the monotony. You count them, one, then two, then three. You compare faces to the names on your crumpled roster, your mind haunted by the certainty that an error here is more than just a mistake. It is an accusation waiting to be used against you. The process repeats, cell after cell. Each door screeches a complaint as it opens, a final word before it slams shut again. Some prisoners shuffle forward, eager to be counted, hoping for a word, a glance, a kindness that will not come. Others cower at the back of their cells, clutching blankets or chamber pots, unwilling to face another set of prying eyes. There are those who try to talk, pleading for water, for food, for mercy. You do not answer. You are not allowed to. Your role is to count and to close, not to listen or care. The guards make their own noise, jeers, insults, nervous laughter. You ignore them. You have learned that the less you react, the less they see you at all. Better to be invisible than to be noticed for the wrong reason. One guard, always the same, trails behind you, eyes fixed on your hands, counting the keys as if waiting for one to disappear. You almost wish it would, just to see the look on his face. At the special cell, the one with the new lock and the silent occupant, you pause. You check the door twice, feeling the metal's cold assurance. No sounds emerge from within. You mark the ledger, hand shaking just a little, and move on. This cell is a secret, a threat, a promise, a reminder that not all prisoners are meant to be seen. In the lower dungeons, the air is thicker, damper, and so cold it burns your throat. Here, the roll call is more for the living than the dead. The bodies in these cells barely move. You peer through the tiny grates, searching for movement, for breath, for any sign that you are not recording a corpse as present and accounted for. Sometimes you are wrong. Sometimes you do not find out until the morning. You mark your guesses in the ledger and say nothing. Everywhere you are met with eyes, some hollow, some furious, some begging. You do not flinch. You have learned that to look away is more dangerous than to stare back. The prisoners need to know that you are not afraid. You need to believe it too. At the end of the circuit, you tally the numbers. You repeat the count for the guards, who grunt and nod, satisfied for now. Any discrepancy means trouble, investigation, punishment. perhaps even a missing keykeeper. You feel the sweat run down your back despite the cold. Tonight, the numbers match. Tonight, you are safe. You lock the main gate to the dungeon, sliding the bolt into place with a final, echoing thud. The prisoners settle into uneasy sleep, haunted by dreams you can only imagine. The guards disperse, their torches bobbing away like fireflies in the gloom. You alone remain for a moment, listening to the silence, feeling the exhaustion in your bones. It is a silence heavy with unspoken questions. Did you check every cell? Did you count every head? Are you sure? You make your way back to your quarters, the weight of the keys still dragging at your hip. You pause at your door, hand lingering on the latch, counting the keys one more time, out loud, just to hear your own voice. You are not afraid of the darkness, not exactly. It is the errors that haunt you, the certainty that one day you will make a mistake, and that mistake will cost you everything. Tonight, you have survived. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new locks, new suspicions, new disappointments. But for now, the doors are closed, the numbers are right, and the night belongs, for a little while, to you. You slip inside, bolt the door behind you, and hang your keys on the hook above your bed. In the hush that follows, you realize you have counted the living, but you cannot count your regrets. And those, like the darkness, will be waiting for you when the bell tolls again. After the final roll call, after the last door is checked, the keys hung, and the endless routine draws to a close, you find yourself alone at last. Alone, but not at peace. You linger by the narrow window in your small, cell like chamber, a window that is less a connection to the world than a cruel reminder of its distance. The glass is thick, old, and streaked with grime. What little light it allows is pale and feeble, washed of warmth and hope. There is nothing to see, not really. Beyond the iron lattice, the world is a blur. The outer wall of the castle, the muddy inner yard, and, just barely, the dark silhouette of the woods beyond. The sun is a memory here, something that happens to other people in other places. It might rise, it might set, but in your life it is only a rumor, a suggestion found in the trembling golden line on the horizon. You press your fingers to the glass, feel the cold seep into your bones, and imagine for a moment that you are someone else, someone free, someone who can step outside and not count every minute before another door slams shut. Sometimes, in the rarest moments when clouds part and the sun dares to shine, you see the world as it is meant to be. Children running in the bailey, their laughter shrill and bright. Chickens scurrying through the muck, unconcerned by locks or rules. Even the Lord himself riding out with his retinue, banners snapping in the wind. You watch them from behind your bars, feeling less like the master of locks and more like a prisoner yourself. This window is both your comfort and your curse. It is a view and a wound, a constant reminder of the life that slips past your grasp. How many days, you wonder, have you stood here watching the seasons shift in muddy, incremental degrees? How many years has the world gone on without you, forgetting the man who carries the keys but never opens any door for himself? The hope you once felt has been ground into something smaller, duller, almost unrecognizable. There was a time you dreamed of another future. Now you are too tired for dreams. The castle itself seems to conspire against light. The walls are thick, the windows narrow, every corridor built to trap the sun as surely as it traps its inhabitants. Torches and rushlights do their best, but their flickering glow only throws deeper shadows, painting monsters on every surface. There is a reason why so many stories about the keykeeper end in madness, why so many of your predecessors vanished without a word. It is not the darkness itself that destroys a man, it is the endless, hopeless longing for the light. You know you are watched, even here. The steward's spies are everywhere, their eyes always prying, their ears always listening. But none of them know how often you return to this window, staring out like a lovesick dog. They do not know that the thing you fear most is not betrayal, not failure, not even death. What you fear is that you will never see the world without iron and stone between you and the sky. You remember, faintly, the color of wildflowers, the sharp taste of wind on a distant hillside, the song of larks at dawn. Those memories are fragile, battered by years of routine and suspicion, but they have not vanished entirely. Sometimes, on sleepless nights, you whisper their names to yourself, as if the words alone could conjure the world you have lost. Clover, heather, bluebell, primrose. They are your secret treasures, untouched by mold or rust. But each morning, as the darkness lifts and the world begins anew beyond your grasp, the light returns to its old, indifferent pattern. The children disappear, the chickens scatter, and the Lord's banners vanish behind the keep. You are left with only the sounds of the castle, the groan of doors, the ring of keys, the echo of your own footsteps in empty corridors. Sometimes you wonder what would happen if you simply left your post, if you walked out the gate with your keys, crossed the yard, and never looked back. You imagine the sunlight on your face, the wind at your back, the endless possibilities of a world not yet measured and mapped by locks and bolts. The thought is almost enough to make you smile, but only almost. You know better than to believe in escape. You have seen what happens to those who try. So you stay by your window a little longer, savoring the pale gold that seeps through the grime. You count the days by the slow march of clouds, the drift of leaves, the shadows crawling up the wall. This, too, is a kind of roll call, a reckoning of moments, not men. In the end, you turn away. There are more doors to lock, more secrets to guard, more darkness to accept. The world outside may be bright, but it is not for you. Your place is here, in the half light, watching and waiting, forever longing for what will never be yours. You reach for your keys and return to the gloom, carrying the memory of light like a wound that will never heal. No one likes to talk about death in the castle. People die, of course. They die all the time, in every season, in every kind of weather, but it is considered poor manners to mention it unless you have no other choice. Death is just another presence in these halls, as much a part of life as cold stone or old bread. And so is sickness, the slow, patient herald that walks ahead of the final visitor. As the keykeeper, you find yourself intimately acquainted with both. It begins, as so many things do, with a cough, a raw, rattling sound that echoes down the corridors even when the doors are closed. You hear it in the mornings, in the evenings, during your rounds, and even in your own chest sometimes. You notice the change in the air, thicker, heavier, laced with the sharp tang of fever. When you breathe, it feels as though you are drawing in damp wool and letting out a slow sigh of rot. One by one, the prisoners succumb. It is never dramatic. There are no cries for help, no last words shouted through the bars. It is a quieter thing, a slackening of faces, a fading of voices, the slow slide from hunger to delirium to silence. You see the change before anyone else does. The ledger in your hand becomes a record of decline. Did not rise for food, would not speak, cold to the touch. You note each one with a careful hand, your writing growing smaller and more cramped as the days pass. The guards are no better off. The cold and damp seep into their bones, the bruises on their hands never quite heal, and their eyes grow hollow with sleeplessness. Every cough in the barracks is cause for suspicion. Is it the fever? Is it something worse? You keep your distance, but it makes no difference. The air carries everything here, words, secrets, and disease. You catch it yourself eventually. Of course you do. No one who works in the lower corridors stays healthy for long. It starts with a tickle in your throat, a shiver that will not leave. Soon your joints ache, your breath rasps, and your nights are filled with fitful dreams of choking and drowning. Still, you rise each morning, force yourself through the rounds, count the keys, count the bodies. The routine is a comfort, even as your hands shake and your vision blurs. You learn to measure the passage of time not by the sun, but by the growing number of empty cells. Some prisoners vanish quietly in the night, their bodies removed before dawn by a pair of silent men with a cart and a shovel. The graves are shallow, the prayers hurried, the earth barely disturbed before someone else is lowered in. Sometimes, if a prisoner was troublesome, the guards joke that the rats will have less work to do this week. No one laughs for long. Death is not the only thing that disappears. The sick are sometimes taken away, supposedly to a different part of the castle where they will recover. You never see them again. Their names are scratched from the roster, their keys removed from your ring. No one asks questions. The castle prefers silence. You wonder sometimes whether the sickness is something in the water, or in the walls, or in the hearts of the people themselves. Perhaps it is simply the price of living in a place where hope is as thin and rare as sunlight. The priest, when he visits, offers prayers that taste of dust. His eyes are red from lack of sleep, his words mechanical. Even the promise of salvation sounds tired here. The bodies pile up in ways both literal and not. Your ledger grows heavier, the names crossed out with ruthless efficiency. You learn to move more quietly, to avoid the gaze of those who are next in line. You see the fear in their faces, not fear of death itself, but of being forgotten, of slipping away without anyone to remember their name. You understand it all too well. On your worst days, you imagine that the sickness is part of the castle's design, as if it is one more lock, one more secret meant to keep people in their place. You cough into your sleeve, feel the fever burn in your cheeks, and wonder if you will be missed when you are gone. You suspect the answer is no. Another keykeeper will be found. Another hand will write the names. The cells will fill again, as they always do. Still, you do your rounds, you keep your records, you lock the doors. It is the only thing that separates you from the dead, the knowledge that you are needed, even if only for another day. You wonder if this is hope or just a different kind of sickness. When you finally crawl into your cot at night, you listen to the wind in the walls, the coughs and sobs drifting through stone. You press a hand to your chest, feel your heart laboring on, and think of all the keys you carry, not just the iron ones, but the invisible ones. Regret, longing, memory, duty. You fall asleep, if you can call it that, knowing that when you wake, there will be fewer names to call, fewer bowls to fill, fewer voices to answer. In the darkness, the castle sighs with you, a place that remembers everything and forgives nothing. The castle rarely sees new faces, and when it does, it is rarely for anything good. Most who visit these stones come either as captives or as the ones who make others captive. But every so often, someone appears at the gate whose footsteps are too certain, whose questions are too pointed, whose cloak is a little too fine for the filth of your world. These are the worst kind, visitors from outside who bring with them a different sort of danger, one made not of violence, but of attention. The morning begins with a summons. You are to report to the great hall at once. You arrive to find the steward fussing over a visitor, a man wrapped in a fur-trimmed cloak that has never seen the inside of a dungeon. His boots are polished, his rings gleam, and his eyes, sharp, gray, unblinking, fall on you as if you are a puzzle to be solved. He introduces himself with no courtesy. I am here by the Lord's command, he announces, his words clipped, his accent unfamiliar. You will provide me with access to every cell, every record, and every key. You nod, trying not to show the dread that prickles along your skin. The steward's posture is all apology, all desperate eagerness to please. Of course, sir, he says. Our keykeeper will assist you in all things. You recognize the tone. Here is a man who does not wish to be blamed for anything, who is already planning where to lay the fault if this visitor is dissatisfied. The tour begins. The visitor glides behind you like a shadow, silent except for the clack of his boots. He asks about the locks, how old, how sturdy, who forged them. He inspects the ring at your waist, his fingers hovering just above the iron, as if tempted to touch, but too proud to sully himself. His questions are endless, and each answer you give seems to invite another, deeper, sharper query. You show him the main gate, the storehouse, the armory. At each stop, he notes the keys, counts them, studies the wards. He asks how often you change the order, whether you ever misplace one, whether anyone else has access. No, you answer, as always, no one but me. You see the suspicion in his gaze. He does not believe you. You wonder if anyone ever has. When you reach the cells, the real inspection begins. The visitor demands each door be opened, every prisoner paraded for his judgment. The guards follow, sullen and surly, their pride wounded by the intrusion. The prisoners, for their part, shrink from the light, from the cold appraisal of an outsider's eye. Some beg, some curse, some simply stare, hollow and silent. The visitor records their names, their conditions, the state of their fetters. He notes everything, from the cracks in the mortar to the rust on the hinges. You try to keep your face blank, but inside you seethe with resentment. The castle is not your friend, but it is yours in a way, and you resent the scrutiny of anyone who treats it as a curiosity. When he comes to the special cell, the one with the new lock and the secrets you do not want to know, he pauses. He looks at the key in your hand, the way you hesitate before fitting it in the lock. This one, he says softly, was not on the original plans. His words are not a question. You shrug, pretending indifference, but you feel the sweat beneath your collar. The steward says nothing, eyes darting between you and the visitor, praying the moment will pass without incident. The visitor does not insist. He merely takes note, lips pursed, and moves on. But you feel his gaze linger as you relock the door, as if he is memorizing the pattern of your fingers, the weight of the key. The inspection drags on for hours. He questions you about the deaths in the past month, about the sickness that moves through the cells, about the escape attempt. He wants to see your ledgers, your records, even the most trivial notes about who was fed and when. No detail is too small. He does not tire, does not relent. He is relentless, a blade drawn across the belly of your routines, searching for weakness. By midday, you are exhausted, your patience thin as water. You sense the tension in every guard, every servant who crosses your path. The visitor is polite enough, but his politeness is another kind of cruelty, a reminder that you are nothing but a functionary, a cog to be examined and, if need be, replaced. At last, he finishes his inspection. He nods, makes a few final notes, and turns to the steward. Your keykeeper is adequate, he says, as if you were a horse whose teeth he has just examined. For now. With that, he sweeps out of the dungeons, his cloak trailing behind like a shadow that will not be banished. You are left in the silence of the corridor, keys heavy at your side, heart pounding. The steward breathes a sigh of relief, but you do not share it. You know better. Such visitors never leave an empty handed. They carry away secrets, suspicions, and sometimes the seeds of your own downfall. You return to your rounds, the echo of the visitor's questions clinging to you like a damp cloak. You feel watched, judged, weighed, and found wanting. The castle returns to its old rhythms, but you sense a change in the air, a new layer of mistrust and unease. For the keykeeper, there are always new doors to be opened, new suspicions to weather. The locks may hold, but your peace of mind never does. In the quiet, you replay every answer you gave, every gesture, every pause. You wonder what you revealed, what you concealed, and what price will be paid for your silence. But the day is not over, and there are still more keys to turn, more secrets to guard, more questions to avoid. And so you go on, each step heavier than the last, knowing that the visitor has left, but his shadow, like the memory of freedom, is not so easily dismissed. Iron bars are not as effective at keeping secrets as they are at keeping bodies. In a place built on locked doors, the most dangerous currency is not the keys themselves, but the things you hear, words drifting through cracks, rumors that crawl beneath thresholds and under your skin. If you were a cleverer man, perhaps you would learn to forget, to close your ears as well as your eyes. But routine sharpens your senses. The longer you work as the keykeeper, the more impossible it becomes to avoid hearing what you are not supposed to know. It happens at odd hours, during a midnight round, or while double checking the storeroom, or pausing outside a cell with a faulty latch. The castle is full of corners that collect whispers, walls that have learned to bend and carry voices, sometimes all the way from the chapel to the pit. You find yourself listening, sometimes by accident, sometimes because it is the only thing more interesting than counting cracks in the plaster. On a cold, restless evening, you hear it. A pair of guards at the end of the hall, talking in voices pitched low enough to suggest secrecy, but loud enough to betray carelessness. He will not last the month, one says, his accent thick, his words slurred with drink. No man can hold those keys forever, not in this place. His companion laughs, a short, cruel sound. You say that every time. The last one lasted years. The trick is not to care. Just do the job. Keep your head down and hope the rats go for someone else first. You know they are speaking of you. You keep moving, footsteps echoing as if you are deaf. But their words stick with you, a splinter lodged beneath your skin. Not to care, that is the fantasy of those who have never carried the ring, who have never lain awake at night, wondering if a single mistake will end everything. Later, passing the cell of an old debtor, Mad Ranulph, who lost his mind long before he lost his fortune, you catch the end of a prisoner's muttered confession. When the keykeeper comes, you must watch his hands. He knows more than he lets on. He sees who gets extra bread, who gets the worst beatings. If he ever speaks to you, it is either a blessing or a curse. His cellmate snorts. He never speaks. That is the trouble with him. Silent men have silent deaths. You move away quietly, making a note to double check their lock before dawn. There are always plans, always little rebellions brewing beneath the surface. Most amount to nothing, but sometimes the right rumor is all it takes for the right man to find the wrong key. The worst conversations, however, are those you overhear by accident, the ones not meant for you at all. In the chapel, late one afternoon, you pause outside the half closed door and catch the priest whispering to a visitor. If the Lord knew what was happening in the dungeons, he would raise the place to its foundations. But he does not want to know. That is why he keeps the steward, and the steward keeps the keykeeper. It is all a matter of distance, one man for each dirty deed. The visitor's reply is too soft to hear, but the implication is clear. In this place, truth is as unwelcome as light. Sometimes you are not sure what is worse, knowing these secrets or knowing that you can do nothing with them. You are the spider in the center of a web, feeling every tremor but unable to leave the silk. To report what you hear is to risk your own life. To ignore it is to let the rot fester. You keep your silence, but each word adds to the weight you carry, an invisible burden heavier than the keys at your waist. At night, alone in your cell like room, you replay the voices in your mind. You remember the names, the threats, the promises whispered through cracks in the stone. You wonder what would happen if you left a cell door unlatched, or if you dropped a hint to the wrong person. You imagine yourself as the agent of chaos, or maybe just as a man desperate to make himself matter, if only for a moment. But every morning, you return to your routine. You lock what must be locked, record what must be recorded, and keep your mouth shut. This is not virtue, but survival. In the castle, nothing is more dangerous than knowledge, and nothing is more useless than a conscience. You understand, at last, why so many keykeepers go mad. It is not the darkness or the cold or even the weight of the iron. It is the sound of voices you can never answer, secrets you can never share, stories that begin and end behind doors only you can open. And so you listen, you remember, you say nothing. After all, the walls have ears, but you, unlucky keykeeper, are cursed with memory. There are few things more grimly ironic than a holiday in the castle. The banners may be hung from the windows, and a little music may leak from the great hall, but for those in the lower corridors, joy is always a rumor, a distant noise filtered through cold stone and the stink of sweat. Even the word feast seems a joke when applied to what passes for celebration here. Still, the calendar marks the day, and so tradition, like mold, crawls even into the darkness. Your instructions are clear. For the holiday, you are to distribute double rations to the prisoners. It is not an act of mercy. It is a demonstration of the Lord's generosity, a performance for those who never see the sun. The cook grumbles as she ladles out the slop, less watery than usual, a few chunks of gray meat floating among the mush. There are crusts of bread, hard but real, and even a pinch of dried fruit for those who still have teeth to risk it. You carry the buckets, arms aching, the smell of grease and bitterness clinging to your clothes. The guards are in high spirits, if only because they expect extra drink later. They whistle and jeer as you make your rounds, poking at the prisoners with their clubs, daring them to show gratitude. Some prisoners mutter thanks through cracked lips. Others only stare at the feast in their hands, remembering better tables or none at all. In the darkest cells, the extra food is met with suspicion. What's the occasion? One woman croaks, her eyes sunken and wary. Who are you trying to impress? No one, you think, but you do not answer. The holiday is not for them, and it certainly is not for you. It is for the Lord and his guests, for the illusion that all is well in his domain. Somewhere above, in halls glowing with fire and laughter, real wine is poured and real meat is roasted. You hear snatches of music, of shouting, of clumsy dancing. The celebration is as far from your reality as sunlight from the depths of the oubliette. After feeding the prisoners, you are called to the guard's own little feast, a slab of boiled pork, a stale cup of ale, and a place at the end of the table where your silence is taken for gloom. The men boast and quarrel, their voices echoing through the barracks. The steward makes a toast, his smile as thin as the soup, reminding everyone of the Lord's great mercy and the peace under his rule. No one mentions the bodies carted out just days before. No one mentions the escape, the fever, or the fact that tomorrow the food will be thin again and the routine unchanged. After the meal, you are expected to make one last round for luck. The castle at night, after a feast, is always louder and more dangerous. The prisoners are restless, bellies unsettled by the sudden bounty, tongues loosened by memories or sour drink. You find a fight in one cell, a dispute over a piece of fat that ends with blood on the straw and curses hurled through the bars. You separate them, fingers steady even as your mind drifts elsewhere. You have done this before. You will do it again. The guards, meanwhile, are drunk on cheap ale and their own authority. They invent new games, rolling dice, betting on who will crack first, taunting the weakest prisoners. You keep to the shadows, unwilling to draw their attention. Once, a young guard tries to pull you into a round of dice, but your refusal is taken as an insult. The keykeeper never plays. He sneers, and the others laugh as if this is the height of wit. You smile thinly, fingers closing tighter around your keys. Later, as the celebration above fades into raucous singing and the threat of a brawl, you retreat to your chamber. There, a gift waits for you, a heel of bread left on your cot, a cup of watered wine. You eat in silence, chewing slowly, eyes fixed on the cracks in the wall. You remember other feasts, childhood days, when a meal meant laughter and stories, not this endless procession of gruel and suspicion. If you are lucky, you will sleep tonight. More likely, the noise from the great hall will crawl down the stairs, chasing away rest until the last drunk has passed out and the torches burn low. Tomorrow, the walls will be hung over, sullen and hungry. The prisoners will wake to find their feast a memory, and you will find the castle unchanged except, perhaps, for a new stain to scrub away. Holidays, you realize, are only different from other days by the type of misery they offer. In the castle, celebration is just another word for endurance. You carry your keys to bed, the ring heavy as ever, and try to imagine a world where a feast means something more than survival. But such a world, like joy itself, is always somewhere else. Somewhere in the castle's sprawl, beyond the stink of the kitchens and the rattling of keys, a few people remember you as more than a shape in the gloom. At least, that is what you tell yourself on the nights when the stone walls seem to close in tighter than usual. Once, long ago, you thought that being the keykeeper would bring your family a kind of protection, a roof overhead, a ration of bread, maybe even a place at the hearth for your children. The truth is more complicated and far colder. Your wife lives with the children in a lean to against the outer wall, as far from the dungeons as she can manage, while still claiming the shelter of the castle. Her days are filled with their own grind, waiting in line for water, mending old clothes until they become new rags, hoping the steward does not remember some unpaid debt or imagined slight. She avoids the main corridors, only venturing near the keep when absolutely necessary, and even then she carries herself like a ghost, wary and silent. You see her sometimes, between your duties, though the meetings are short and unsatisfying. She looks at you with a mixture of relief and resignation, as if grateful to see you alive, but weary from the cost of that survival. Your children regard you as a stranger, someone who smells of iron and misery, who can be counted on for nothing but a distant wave, and, if fortune allows, a crust of bread secreted from the kitchens. The little one, Anna, reaches for your hand once, sticky fingers searching for reassurance. You pull away, the shame rising hot in your cheeks. Your clothes reek of the dungeon. Your skin crawls with the memory of lice, and you do not want to bring any more of the castle's sickness home. The gesture, meant as a protection, feels like betrayal. Anna blinks and forgets. Your wife sees and does not. On rare days, you carry your children in your thoughts like a talisman, a reminder that you exist for something more than opening and closing doors. But those moments are fleeting. Most of the time, your family are just more faces in the crowd, drifting away as you turn back to your rounds. You hear stories of men who sneak food from the storerooms for their kin, who bribe guards for an extra blanket or a favor owed. You envy their boldness, but never risk it yourself. You know how quickly kindness turns to accusation, how little it takes to be called a thief or traitor. There are evenings after your rounds when you find your wife waiting by the gate, shivering in the wind. You talk about nothing, about the weather, about the price of onions, about how Anna is learning her letters from the priest's old books. You tell her nothing of your real life, the life of keys and cells and endless suspicion. She tells you nothing of hers. It is a mutual mercy, a shared silence, as if naming your misery would give it more power. One winter, Anna falls ill. Your wife begs you for medicine, for broth, for anything to keep her alive. You plead with the cook, with the steward, with the priest. Each offers you the same blank look, the same shrug of indifference. The castle is full of sick children. Yours is not special. You bring home a handful of bitter herbs and a rag soaked in warm water, knowing it will not be enough. That night, you lie awake, listening for Anna's cough, cursing the locks that you carry and the ones you cannot break. Sometimes you wonder if your family would be better off if you simply left. The thought is almost comforting in its hopelessness, but there is nowhere to go, no work to be found, no lord eager to hire a man who reeks of keys and secrets. You are needed here, if only as a scapegoat, a pair of hands to blame when things go wrong. The castle is your cage, and your family is trapped in the shadow of its walls. There are moments when you watch your children play in the mud near the wall and feel something like hope, a fleeting conviction that if you endure a little longer, you might find a way to buy their freedom, to move to a better village, to begin again. But the feeling never lasts. The next morning, you are back at your post, checking locks, counting prisoners, and watching your family from a distance, as unreachable as the sun behind the clouds. On festival days, your wife sometimes smuggles Anna and the boy into the edge of the bailey to see the banners, to catch a crumb of music or a glimpse of the Lord's finery. They wave if they see you, but you never wave back, not out of pride, but out of fear that someone will notice. Affection is dangerous here. Every kindness is a liability. Better to be thought cold than to draw the wrong kind of attention. So you love them as best you can, quietly, from afar, with the small, careful acts that go unnoticed by everyone but you. You bring home scraps, patch their clothes, leave a coin under the mat when you can. You tell yourself it is enough, even as you know it is not. And at night, when you return to your cot, alone but not quite alone, you find yourself wishing for the impossible, a world where you could open every door, step into the light, and call your family by name without fear. Until then, you keep your distance, carry your keys, and hope that somewhere in the spaces between your failures, they understand. If there is one thing that accumulates faster than mold on bread in the castle, it is fatigue. Fatigue, not the honest tiredness of a day's work in the field, but a bone deep exhaustion that seeps into every muscle and that thought, a gray haze that settles over your mind like dust on forgotten shelves. It is the true currency of the keykeeper's life, paid out day after day with no hope of reprieve. Every morning, you wake feeling older. Sometimes you lie for long minutes on your thin pallet, listening to the creaks and groans of your own body, wondering if you will ever stand up straight again. Your joints crack as you dress. Your eyes ache before you have even seen the first flicker of daylight. Even your dreams are restless, cluttered with locks that will not turn, doors that open onto nothing, faces blurred by fear or hunger. Routine is your only defense. You cling to it desperately, repeating the same motions until your mind numbs to the details. You rise, wash in a chipped basin, check the ledger for fresh ink stains, count the keys, always the keys. The weight at your waist is constant, an ache that no rest will ever soothe. Sometimes you imagine what it would feel like to move without their pull, to run, or even just walk without that iron rhythm against your thigh. The thought is almost frightening in its unfamiliarity. As the day unfolds, fatigue does not fade. It simply changes its mask. Climbing the stairs, you feel your breath shorten, your chest tighten. The air in the dungeons is heavy, dense with the exhalations of centuries, each one another stone in your lungs. The prisoners notice, of course. Some make jokes. Careful, keykeeper, you'll drop dead before you can lock me in, while others simply watch you, their expressions somewhere between pity and gloating. You do not answer. There is no energy for words, not even for anger. Tasks that once seemed simple now demand an effort you can barely muster. Your hands fumble with the keys. Your eyes blur over names in the ledger. Every lock becomes an adversary. The guards are little help. They grow lazier as your movements slow, content to let you do their share of the work if it means another hour by the fire or a second cup of watered ale. Sometimes you think they are waiting for you to fail, to drop a key or forget a name, just to see what happens next. Fatigue is not just physical, it curls into your thoughts, wrapping around your sense of self. You begin to forget things, where you put the special key, how many prisoners were in the yard at roll call, whether you checked the far cell this morning or yesterday. Each lapse feels like another step toward disaster. You start repeating the same tasks, afraid to trust your own memory. You check doors twice, then a third time, feeling the old panic rising when you cannot remember the last time you did it. There are nights when you lie awake, staring at the ceiling, convinced you have missed something vital. The fear gnaws at you until you drag yourself from bed, shuffle through the corridors with a lantern, and retrace your rounds. Of course, everything is as it should be. Every lock shut, every key accounted for, every prisoner present and silent in the dark. But the doubt remains, burrowing deeper with each sleepless hour. Even when you do manage to sleep, the rest is broken. Dreams turn sour. Faces swim in torchlight. Keys slip through your fingers. Doors slam shut just as you reach them. Sometimes you hear voices, your wife's, your children's, the old keykeeper who vanished before your time, each one accusing, reminding you of every failure and every kindness you did not dare. Fatigue colors everything you do, even hope. When a prisoner offers a bribe, you turn it down not from principle, but from weariness. The risk outweighs the promise. When a guard proposes a shortcut, you refuse because you have seen what shortcuts lead to in the long run. You are too tired to gamble, too tired even to wish for escape. You survive because it is less effort than rebellion. Some days you wonder if anyone notices. Your wife sees the lines deepening on your face, the way your hands tremble when you think no one is watching. She says nothing, but her silence is eloquent. The steward, of course, notices everything and cares for nothing. Your fatigue is just another excuse to keep you under suspicion, another reason to threaten or mock. The Lord has never known your name. To him, you are just a function, a moving part in the machine. And so the days crawl onward. The castle does not change, nor do the faces of those you watch over and the ones who watch you. The only difference is the heaviness in your bones, the slow erosion of whatever fire once drove you to take this job, to hold these keys, to hope for something better. If you were a different man, you might pray for rest. As it is, you simply endure. You carry your fatigue as you carry your keys, with a resignation so deep it almost feels like pride. At the end of the day, when you finally close your ledger and return to your narrow cot, you lay both burdens beside you and hope, foolishly, that tomorrow they will be lighter. But they never are. The fatigue never leaves you, but some nights it sharpens rather than dulls your senses. In those hours when sleep is impossible and the castle seems to hold its breath, you find yourself trapped not by walls, but by thoughts that gnaw at your spirit more cruelly than any rat. These are the hours of reckoning, when every door you have ever locked seems to turn inward. You lie on your cot, hands behind your head, the keys heavy on the nail above you. You count the slow drips of water from the ceiling, the flickers of torchlight under your door. Sometimes you imagine each drop is a second of your life, vanishing into the cracks, irretrievable, unremarkable. You tell yourself you are being maudlin, but the feeling persists. In these moments, the life you have lived presents itself in a grim procession. You remember faces, prisoners, guards, the ever watchful steward, your own family glimpsed at a distance. Sometimes the faces blur together, names lost to the endless repetition of routine. Other times, one will stand out, sharp and painful. The old woman who died coughing in her cell, the boy who never spoke but always watched, the guard who vanished after being caught with a coin that was not his. Each memory has a door, and every door a key you cannot give away. You cannot say when hope left you. It was not a single event, a lost key, a punishment, a betrayal, but a gradual eroding, like water finding the cracks in stone. When you first took the ring of keys, you thought yourself important, even trusted. Now you understand that trust is just another word for necessity, and importance another word for target. There is a kind of dark humor in your existence, and you are not immune to it. Sometimes you imagine explaining your job to a stranger from some distant, sun drenched land. My trade is closing doors, locking people away, and watching those who cannot leave. What would they say? That you are a warden, a jailer, a villain, or just a man caught in the machinery of something older and more relentless than any one person could be? You have stopped caring about the answer. You reflect, not for the first time, on your complicity. The guards deliver the blows, the steward gives the orders, the Lord writes the laws, but it is your hand that locks the doors. Your silence, your routine, your caution are what make the suffering possible. You tell yourself that you have no choice, that you must so survive, that if it were not you, it would be someone worse. And yet, some nights, you wonder if this is only cowardice in a heavy coat. You imagine rebellion. It is always the same fantasy. One night, you leave a door unlatched, a key beneath a stone, a hint to the right pair of desperate eyes. You picture chaos in the halls, the guards scrambling, the steward furious, the lord red faced with rage. But the fantasy always ends the same way, with your own head on a spike, your family scattered, the castle unchanged except for another name scratched out of the ledger. You know too well that nothing you do will change the order of things. The castle is built to survive you. Your darker thoughts sometimes go further. What if you simply stopped caring, stopped counting, stopped guarding the line between inside and out? The fear is not just that the chaos would hurt others, but that it would swallow you too. You are as much a prisoner as anyone in the cells. The difference is that you made your own cage, one careful, necessary choice at a time. Sometimes you wonder what you have become: a shadow, a ghost, a man who spends more time among locked doors than in the sun. Your own reflection in a water basin startles you. A gaunt face, deep lines, eyes that have seen too much and understood too little. There are rumors about men who go mad in this work, who talk to the walls, who see faces in the damp and blood on their hands even after a lifetime of washing. You are not there yet, but you feel the edge. You remember laughter once, real, honest laughter, your wife's, your children's, your own. The memory is almost embarrassing. You turn away from it, not wanting to taste what you have lost. The castle has not only claimed your days, but your sense of what life is supposed to be. Now, all your joy is measured in relief. Another night survived, another accusation avoided, another routine completed. There are nights, rare and precious, when you glimpse the sky from your window and remember that the world is wide, that somewhere there are green hills and rivers and lives not shaped by stone and iron. But those moments are fleeting. Mostly, you turn inward, counting regrets as carefully as you count keys. You know there is no heroism in your work, only endurance. But even endurance has its cost. Every day you pay it in silence, in caution, in the slow grinding down of whatever remains of your soul. You listen to the water dripping, to the sound of distant boots, to the sighs of the wind rattling at doors you will never open. In the end, you close your eyes, hoping for sleep, but expecting only more hours of restless memory. The castle wins again. It always does. You do not notice the arrival of old age. It creeps in quietly, like a draft through a badly sealed door. At first, it is just stiffness in your fingers, the ache in your knees after too many trips down cold stone steps. Then it is your eyes blurring over the ledger, your memory stumbling on the faces and names you once recalled without effort. The castle, which has always felt indifferent, now feels almost hostile, stairs steeper, locks stickier, torches dimmer, everything is heavier. Your hands, once so sure with every key, tremble as you fit them into the locks. Sometimes you fumble, and a guard sighs in annoyance, rolling his eyes as if your failure is a personal insult. You hear whispers now, soft, sharp words traded by the new guards who have not yet learned what it is to carry your burden. The keykeeper is slowing down. Maybe it is time for a new one. The old fear returns, not of death, but of being cast aside, rendered unnecessary in the only place that remembers your name. You begin to dread the morning inventory, the steward's hawk like gaze searching for weakness. Once, when you are too slow with the main gate, he grabs your wrist harder than necessary and laughs for the benefit of the others. Look how the mighty have fallen, he sneers. Perhaps we should nail the keys to the wall and be done with it. You say nothing, but your cheeks burn with shame. There is no dignity in this decline, only a growing sense of uselessness. It is not only your body that betrays you, your mind falters too. Sometimes you forget which keys are which, forcing yourself to repeat their order under your breath. At night, you check and recheck your ledger, terrified that you have missed a cell, miscounted a prisoner, failed in some way that will not be discovered until morning. Your dreams are more vivid now, old faces, dead and alive, returning to demand you unlock a door that no longer exists. You try to hide your weakness, but the castle exposes you daily. Tasks that were once automatic, climbing ladders, shifting crates, wrestling stuck doors, now leave you winded, trembling, teeth clenched against pain. Even writing in the ledger is a battle. Your script becomes shaky, uneven, harder for the steward to read. He notices, of course. He comments on it loudly so others can enjoy the spectacle. Soon we will need a child to help you hold the quill, old man. The laughter stings. Your family, such as it is, suffers with you. Your wife grows more withdrawn, her eyes full of questions she does not voice. The children have grown, or nearly so, and look at you with a mixture of concern and embarrassment. The little one, no longer little, asks if you are well, if you will always have the keys. You do not know how to answer. There are days when you wish for illness to carry you away quietly before your decline is complete. Other days, you wish you could run, leave the keys on a hook, walk out the gate, and vanish before anyone notices. But you know you are too slow now, too easy to find. The castle owns you body and soul. There is nowhere left for you but its crumbling corridors. In rare moments of honesty, a younger guard may offer you a seat, may carry the buckets for you down the steepest stairs. You accept with as much grace as you can muster, but the gesture is always tinged with pity, never respect. You are no longer the man who could quell a riot with a glare or a fistful of iron. You are instead a warning, a glimpse of every guard's future, the end they hope to avoid but cannot. As the weeks pass, your sense of purpose dwindles. You notice you are left out of meetings, that instructions are given to others first. The steward keeps you busy with pointless tasks, counting empty cells, cleaning storerooms, fetching water for the cook. The keys feel heavier, the ring digging deeper into your side, leaving bruises that never fade. At night, you look at your reflection in a shard of glass. The man you see is gray, stooped, uncertain. Your hands shake even when they are empty. You remember when they were strong enough to hold back angry prisoners, to swing a club if you had to. Now you can barely hold your own memories. You wonder if anyone will remember you when you are gone, if the castle will notice your absence. You suspect it will not. The stones endure, only the hands that turn the keys change. You are just another shadow that passes through these corridors, soon to be replaced by someone younger, quicker, harder. You begin to make small preparations in your way. You clean your ledgers, sort the keys by size and purpose, try to write down what you know for the next man, though you doubt he will read it. Some things can only be learned by walking these halls, by feeling the weight of iron every day. Still, you try. On your last night as keykeeper, though you do not know it yet, you sit by your window, watching the light fade over the outer wall. You press your keys into your lap, feeling every bruise, every ache, every memory. You are not afraid of what comes next, only tired. Tired of the doors, the suspicion, the endless, grinding routine. The castle, for its part, gives no sign of caring. The walls are as cold and unyielding as ever. Somewhere a bell tolls, summoning the next watch, and you know that soon someone will come for your keys. Your time is nearly over. The keys will pass on, the locks will remain. You close your eyes, listening to the footsteps in the corridor, and wonder if, in the end, all men are just keepers of doors. Waiting, always waiting, for the moment when someone else takes the ring and your story slips quietly, finally, into silence. Morning brings no fanfare for the end of your service. It arrives as every morning does, with gray light seeping reluctantly through the high window, with the familiar aches in your joints, with the distant sounds of the kitchen fires and the restless shuffle of the first shift of guards. Yet this morning, something is different, and you know it before you even sit up on your cot. You feel it in the silence, in the way the world seems to wait, expectant. You dress slowly, fingers clumsy, the keys on the nail above your bed as heavy as ever. For the first time, you hesitate before buckling the ring at your waist. They are no longer an extension of your body, but an alien weight, a burden you have carried so long you forgot what it felt like to be free of it. Still, you fasten them out of habit, out of pride, out of fear. When you step into the corridor, you are not alone. Two guards, both young, stand waiting, eyes averted. They say nothing. You know your role. You follow them, step after weary step, through corridors you know better than you know your own family's faces. The castle is unchanged, but it feels different underfoot, as if it already knows you will soon no longer belong to it. The steward waits for you in the great hall, his expression unreadable. There is no ceremony, only duty. He nods, gestures to the table, and you place the ring of keys before him. The iron clangs against the wood, echoing, final. You almost expect the hall to grow colder, but it does not. The world remains stubbornly indifferent to your small surrender. The new keykeeper is already there, standing awkwardly to one side. A young man with too much nervous pride, eyes darting to the keys as if afraid they might bite him. You recognize something in him, hope, perhaps, or ambition, or the simple hunger for a place in the world. You want to warn him, to tell him what these keys really mean, but you know the words would do no good. He must learn as you did, step by miserable step, in darkness and doubt. The steward calls him forward, and the new keykeeper takes the ring with hands that tremble just a little. The weight surprises him. You see it in his face, the sudden realization that this is more than a symbol, more than a job. He glances at you, uncertain, as if asking for approval. You meet his eyes for a heartbeat and try to summon a look of dignity, of understanding. You hope he sees something kind there, but you do not linger. Mercy is not part of this passing. With the formalities finished, the guards escort you away, out of the great hall, down the cold corridors, to a small chamber near the outer wall. It is not a prison cell, though it could be mistaken for one. There is a bed, a cracked pitcher, a thin blanket. Here you are to wait until the next decision is made, whether you will serve out your days as a menial laborer, be sent to the fields, or simply be allowed to fade away. One more ghost in the castle's memory. Your hands shake as you settle on the bed. You feel lighter and yet emptier than you thought possible. The castle moves on without you. You hear the new keykeeper's steps echoing in the hall, hear the guards laughing, hear the distant sounds of doors opening and closing. For the first time in decades, you are not part of the rhythm. You are on the other side of the lock. You try to recall the first day you took the keys, your own nervous pride, the cold certainty that this job would mean something. You remember how important it felt, how frightening, how full of possibility. You think of all the doors you opened, all the people you watched come and go. You remember those you tried to help, those you failed, and those whose names you never learned. Regret, sharp as hunger, gnaws at you. Was it all worth it? Did you do enough? Did you do too much? You think of your family. You wonder if, now, you can walk across the yard and speak to your wife without fear, if you can offer a hand to your children and not worry about passing on the taint of keys and secrets. You do not know. You do not know if the castle will let you go, or if it has already claimed everything you were. Later, as the sun finally rises over the walls, you hear the sound of footsteps, slow, hesitant, as if the walker is not sure of their purpose. The door opens, and the new keykeeper stands there, holding the ring uncertainly. Is there anything I should know? He asks, voice trembling. You look at him for a long moment, measuring his youth against the weight he now carries. You consider telling him about the silent cell, the guard's cruelty, the days when every kindness is a danger. You think of saying, trust no one, care for nothing, count your keys and your regrets, for both will only grow. Instead, you only shake your head. You will learn, you say. You will learn. He nods and leaves, the door closing quietly behind him. You sit in the silence, hands empty, and listen to the castle's heart beating, doors slamming, locks turning, voices rising and falling in corridors you will never walk again. The world goes on as it always has, indifferent to those who open and close its doors. You are free, or as free as anyone ever is in this place. Outside, the day brightens, and somewhere a bell rings, calling the castle to its endless business. You watch the sun move across the floor and realize, with a strange sense of peace, that the keys were never truly yours. They only passed through your hands, as everything does. You close your eyes and rest, the burdens of iron, duty, and memory finally slipping from your grasp. The castle breathes on, unchanged, and so it goes.